Sigma presents Business to Government.
My name is Brando Benifei. I'm a third-term member of European Parliament. I was the rapporteur and chief negotiator of the AI Act, the regulation on artificial intelligence of the European Union, that is now a regulation that is part of the legislation of the EU and is now undergoing implementation phase. So now I chair the working group on the implementation of the AI Act. And I'm also the chair of the delegation for relations with the United States in the European Parliament, and so I also deal with a dialogue with the rest of the world, including United States, but not only with them, about the global regulation and direction of AI innovation. I think there are some principles behind the European regulation of AI. For example, the idea of having a different level of risk to classify AI, so that AI with low risk of problems regarding data or cybersecurity or human control or impact on health and safety. For those that have a low risk on these aspects, they can be lightly regulated, while the higher risk AI, for example, dealing with sensitive areas like workplace or administration of justice, of democratic processes, in this case, having a more specific regulation to mitigate risk. So this idea of the risk levels is something that can be a universal language, that can be part of a dialogue, and it is part of a dialogue with the rest of the world. But also the need for transparency, looking at the generative AI. So for example, to avoid the abuse of deepfakes, of AI used to in fact cheat people, to make them think fake news, etc. So these are examples of areas where I see a lot of space for convergence at global level. Other aspects can be more specific to EU or to other systems. So ethics are important when we deal with AI, because the law can arrive only to some extent. We can legislate, we can regulate, we are doing it, but there must be an ethical approach to the use of AI, which means having clear values of respecting human dignity, the central role of human beings in the development of AI. AI can be a great opportunity to increase our productivity at work, ameliorate our learning, strengthen our capacity of using in the best way our time. But it can also bear risks, so we need to be careful and build a safety net so that people can be more convinced on using AI and not be scared, sometimes irrationally, about it. So the AI Act is based on the idea that we have to mitigate risks of AI so that we can be sure that AI can be at the best interest of everyone. So this means that when we deal with AI in sensitive contexts, for example, a workplace, we regulate so that we can avoid discrimination. For example, today we have systems that are used to select curriculum of workers that are discriminating against women or people that are not white. They have learned to discriminate based on the data that was given to them. So to see which data we use to train the systems is very important. But also think of a system used in a smart city context. You need cybersecurity to be sure that the security is strong enough to avoid that any kind of malicious actor can enter into a smart city system. Or when we think about health activity, so medical activity, it's important to have a clear governance of the data, because health data is very sensitive. So these are cases, these are very simple and short examples of existing risks. Then you also have some use cases that we think are simply to be avoided in Europe. So for example, we prohibited the use of AI to infer emotions at workplace or study places, or to use manipulative subliminal techniques, or to use biometric cameras without any limitations. Instead, we want those technologies that are very intrusive to be used to look for criminals and victims of very violent crimes and to prevent terrorism, not to be used to put every citizen into an AI-powered surveillance, because this risk exists if we do not have rules in place. So AI can be used to strengthen the capability of video games to ensure an entertaining experience. AI can be embedded in video games to make them take a next level in terms of the experience for the gamer. But also it needs to be, again, regulated so that we avoid forms of exploitation, of manipulation, of subliminal techniques that are forbidden in Europe. And so we also need to look at which use is done in each video game context. But again, we need not to be against or blocking this, but rather regulating it based on our values. Well, it's difficult to control and to regulate this kind of technologies. So in fact, it's a complex system, the one we have built. So in fact, be able to regulate the technology that is changing very quickly, but in fact, looking in the case of the EU regulation more at the concrete use cases so that we can stay close to reality. And this is important also looking at the regulation of online gaming, that obviously it has to do with AI, but also with the data flows and with protection of minors online and such. It's important that we keep cooperation and exchange, knowing that each context will have different rules, but we can build cooperation in the international context. Well, the fact is that you need to be careful on how you write the legislation. We in Europe focused on existing use cases that are linked to reality. So medical use of AI, the workplace use of AI, the use of AI in administration of justice, in democratic processes. These are examples of concrete contexts that are still there now, but they were there like centuries ago. You already had like 1,000 years ago, you already had the doctors, you already had the tribunals, you already had the processes to take decisions. So we have arranged the regulation so that it can sustain the change in time, but also to make it adaptable with the change of the technology so that it can be fixed and changed quickly. Well, the race on technology, looking at the role of Europe, is central for our future and a central topic of our debate in the European institutions, because it's a fact that the US and China have been innovating very quickly, growing as crucial technological actors, while the EU has been lagging behind for various reasons, for the lack of cohesion, for the lack of big initiatives like the ones we have seen in this context of US and China, with the lack of an integrated capital markets union, with the lack of big digital infrastructures. Now we are trying to catch up, but we are still too slow. We need to accelerate. And we need to consider this as our priority, because catching up on innovation is crucial to stay competitive and also to defend a model of development of AI that is based on democratic values, and that's not the same of other parts of the world. It's not the same as China, but not the same of US also. So for our model to be strong in the global debate, we need also to invest more and to have more strength as Europe in projects regarding the development of AI. So EU has plans for a second Chips Act to continue its efforts to be more independent on the provision of rare materials and on the provision of semiconductors. But it's still a long way. We need to differentiate sources. We need to build stronger partnerships also with African countries, and we need to strengthen our capability of negotiating also with the various actors that are now dominating the context. We need to use the power of our common market. No one wants to renounce to the to the EU market, sorry, from US or China or elsewhere. So we need to use the strength of our common market to be strong in negotiating conditions for these new technologies, enabling materials like microchips materials. It's very important that we have events where companies and businesses and civil society organizations and consumers and clients and experts can come together, exchange views, discuss. So any initiative like this is very important and very useful to build a more work together and more cohesion. Well, it's important in the context of an important year in Italy for many different events that we have moments where we can bring many people together. So any initiative of this kind is very useful for strengthening our activity and bring more people together.